and a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to have you here every Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Hoping you're having yourselves a wonderful, wonderful morning this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And happy football return. That's right, football is back. But on Thursdays, Thursday night football is here. We get to celebrate that. We get to celebrate the fact that this season in college football is into week 3. There's already teams with bye weeks this week, including Syracuse and Stanford, who will play each other next week in the Dome in Stanford's first west to East Coast trip of their joining of the ACC. So excited for that, excited to see that and what that's going to be. A lot of good things coming up here where sports meets life. PJ and I, of course, this is Thursday, which means it's the PJ Takeover. The grand old smooth one is here with me for the entire broadcast. Here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, you are watching and listening all over the world on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Before we bring Papa Joe in, I want to let you know that you can find us once you plug your... See, most cars now have CarPlay, right? They want you to be safe. So you go into your car, you plug your car in, or you put it on that charging port and whatnot. Some of them have... automatic that as soon as you bring your phone into your car, you don't have to plug anything in. It's wireless, and it says, oh, they're in the car, and they put the CarPlay on. And when they do that, they give you apps to choose from, which means that you can watch and listen. You can listen to Wake Up Call, I should say, not watch. When you're driving, you got to pay attention to the road. But you can listen to Wake Up Call on all of these apps. So you go into your car, the phone goes on, the CarPlay goes on, and you have Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn. And all you have to do is click on any one of these and type in Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. And you'll be able to listen to me in the car just like you're listening to the radio. So make sure you do that, because we have over 1,800 shows that you can go back and listen to, going all the way back to 2012. And, of course, you can watch and listen by searching us at Wake Up Call DT on YouTube. A lot of great stuff coming up. PJ is here with me this morning, and I am so grateful to have him. We're going to be talking about Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. PJ and I are going to talk about Major League Baseball, the standings, the race for the wild card, which we've been discussing pretty much all season long. And now we're coming down to the home stretch of it. Who is going to steal home and make it in to the postseason? We'll be talking about it. And then we'll get into college football. We'll recap week 2. How did PJ and I do? We never know who we're picking of each other. Nobody knows the other person's picks anytime we do this. And PJ and I picked the exact same team for all 10 games last week, and it ended up working out in our favor. We'll get into that college football week 3 as well, and we'll get into recapping NFL week 1 as well as going into week 2. A lot of good stuff coming up. Papa Joe's on the line. P to the Jizzle, J. Edgar Twizzle. How we doing, sir?
Good morning, Daniel. Fine. It's dodging a few raindrops down here where we got the outer bands of that hurricane that went through Louisiana, and it just caused a lot of nuisance, but it should blow out of here in the next day or so.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. That was the biggest thing, is that you guys are safe from the hurricane and that people everywhere are safe from the hurricane, because I know the destruction that they can cause, as I was down for Hurricane Katrina relief back in 2006 down in New Orleans 8 months after the hurricane had hit. So I know how bad it can be, and I know that you guys have had to shelter in place. You've had to do different things to be safe. And so to me, hearing that you guys are okay, hearing that, you know, everything's all right down in Florida and hopefully stays all right, not just for the people of Florida, but for everyone, Kentucky, Louisiana, and so on and so forth. You know, my hopes and prayers go out to everybody that needs one and everyone that doesn't think that they need one, that they're all okay down there, PJ. So I do want to get to something before we get to baseball. And it's because it's a huge thing. It's a prediction that I made over these last couple years, over this last year or so. And the prediction that I made was that the Pac-12 was not dead. Now, I had told people that my mother, when I was growing up, when I came home from school, my mom was very clear to me. She said, you can watch General Hospital or you can watch nothing. Because she always liked watching her General Hospital soap. So I would watch General Hospital, and watching General Hospital, I realized in this soap opera world that even when someone looks like they're dead, they're not necessarily dead. If you see someone not die on screen, but they go, oh, such and such is dead, if you didn't see him die, they're still alive. And even when you did see them die, or you perceive to have seen them die, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're gone. Well, I use that analogy when speaking about the Pac-12 because the Pac-12, we never saw them die. Nobody said that the Pac-12 logo was gone. Nobody said that the Pac-12 name was gone. Nobody said that the commissioner was relieved of their duties and there was no leadership in the Pac anymore. So you read between the lines and pay attention to the fact that the Pac wasn't gone. And Washington State and Oregon State, they made a deal with the Mountain West to play a certain amount of games, but they didn't become Mountain West teams. So why would they stay lone wolves? And when I spoke with Stanford and I spoke with Cal, their head coaches, I talked to them about this seems like a temporary thing. I asked Cal head coach of the Golden Bears, Justin Wilcox, the football program, I asked him about it and I said, I feel like this is more of a Band-Aid. This is maybe a 2 to 3 year thing, a short-term thing for Cal and Stanford to find a home in the ACC. And eventually, it helps out the ACC, it gives you guys a home, but eventually there's going to be a conference on the West Coast. And I feel like this is just a Band-Aid until they can figure that out. He said, I don't think that you're wrong. Well, this is what came out late last night. Washington State and Oregon, this came from the D1 ticker, Washington State and Oregon State are targeting Boise State, San Diego State, which, by the way, both of those were targeted by the old Big East, Colorado State, and Fresno State as new additions to a rebuild of the Pac-12. This comes according to Yahoo's Ross Dellinger, who said, quote, those schools are expected to soon apply or have already applied for membership into the conference. The first step in the process to complete the deal. They would join the league starting with the 2026 school year. This is expected to be the first phase in a multi-phase expansion endeavor to reach, at the very least, 8 schools. The NCAA's minimum required to qualify as an FBS conference. Now, end quote. Dellinger went on to say that the Pac-12's board must approve any membership applications, quote, and is expected to soon do so. The deal could be finalized by the end of the week, speaking of this week. The expansion is not inexpensive. Each Mountain West school is contractually bound to a $17 million exit fee, and the Pac-12 is on the hook for an additional $10 to $12 million penalty fee for every school they acquire as part of a scheduling agreement the conference struck with the Mountain West, end quote. This also came from Dellinger, quote, in negotiations with potential new members, Pac-12 officials and third parties have presented a plan that features a new media rights agreement worth more than the Mountain West's current or future television package, as well as the sponsorship potential of the Pac-12 brand, end quote. From Pete Thamel of ESPN, he said, quote, the buyout numbers would be big. $18 million per school, he's saying, if there's not 2 years withdrawal notice, and an additional $43 million total of poaching fees that's tied to the Pac-12 Mountain West scheduling agreement, end quote. So basically, it seemingly has backfired in the Mountain West face that they made any agreement with Washington State and Oregon State to schedule games together, because it seems like bringing them in partially, not as full members of conference, but bringing them into the scheduling agreement essentially just gave them an open opportunity to talk to all of the members of the Mountain West. PJ, I said over and over on Wake Up Call that the Pac-12 wasn't dead. I didn't think it was gone. I thought these moves were Band-Aids. I thought they were temporary fixes. And I saw a West Coast conference emerging, not the West Coast Conference WCC. I saw a conference on the West Coast emerging from all of this. And here we are late last night with prediction certified. The Pac-12 allegedly very not dead, looking at 4 teams. That would give them 6. And then looking to take more in a multi-phase expansion to recreate the Pac-12. Your thoughts?
Well, I read the same thing, and I got it down for my notes today. I think it's complimentary that they did that to the other schools. The only problem I have with it short term is they're not going to be competitive with the rest of the big conferences. Oregon State, Washington State, Fresno State, San Diego State, Colorado, Boise State. That doesn't blow my skirt up. There's going to be some good competition maybe among the conference, but I think it's going to be a while before they're competitive with the SEC, the Big 12, and so on and so on.
Yeah, and there's also the reality of what I had predicted and stated, that Stanford and Cal coming to the ACC was a temporary placeholder until they could get things figured out. So do you see a world where this Pac-12 expansion goes through, they get these 4 schools, and then they say to Cal and Stanford, do whatever you got to do with the ACC and come back home?
Well, it would seem logical for them to look at that, but money talks. If they're going to stay with the ACC, they're going to make a lot of money in that conference. But perhaps it's to their benefit to rejoin or say attach themselves to the Pac-12, and that'll give them 8 teams that qualify. And now we're talking about a little different animal, because those 2 teams specifically have been competitive with any school in the nation. So I think that would benefit them a lot, and I think it would benefit the country.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who they go after next and how soon this deal gets done. Boise State and San Diego State, as I've said, have been involved in expansion talks before that they allegedly pulled out of when it came to the old Big East. Now, think about this. If they had joined the Big East, they could have saved Big East football, which would have maybe prevented the Big East dying from the poaching by the ACC, which would have never created the American, which would have changed literally everything. It's that butterfly effect. If you change one thing about history, does anything in history after that truly happen the same? We'll talk more about college football as we step forward, but it's time to unleash PJ on the world of Major League Baseball. PJ's on the diamond, and he has to tell us what's going on in the standings. How close are these races now? We've been following the wild card from, 30 games in, 40 games in, maybe even before that. But PJ, we're down to crunch time. The marbles are starting to fall and form a picture. Where are we at in baseball?
Well, I'll start the way I usually do with my statistics. I have a lot of notes to talk about, which, of course, refer to the wild card situation. So I'm a little long-winded this morning, but I'll be okay.
Sure.
American League East, we got the Yankees at 84 and 62. Baltimore's 1.5 behind. Boston is 10 behind. Boston has a very, very, very slim chance of making it. 6% chance of making a wild card. Not going to happen. Probably this conference is going to be solid. With Cleveland at 84 and 62 in the Central Division. Kansas City at 4.5 back. Minnesota 6 back. Cleveland was 7 and 3 in their last 10 games, and KC was 5 and 5. So there's a little bit of difference there because KC was creeping up on them. And I still say, and I have said all along, that Kansas City is the better team and will win this division. There's a reason for that, and I'll tell you that reason. Because Minnesota, well, Detroit, I'll go to Seattle, never mind. In the Western Conference, we got Houston at 77 and 68. Everyone else is far behind. Seattle has a 5% chance of slipping in there. Don't like it. Don't like it. I think we're solid with these guys. Detroit has an outside chance, again, 11% of making it. But the three teams ahead of them, Cleveland, Kansas City, Minnesota, are just too good. So I think we're set in the American League. Now, the National League, that's a whole different story. But let me get stats out of the way first. Average-wise, Bobby Witt has hit 333 and has been for the last 2 months leading the division. Aaron Judge is at 320. Home runs, Judge has 51. RBI, Judge has 126. Now, Aaron Judge has a pretty good chance, if he can hit a little bit better, singles and doubles, to get the Triple Crown, which is batting average, home runs, and RBIs in one season. Very rare to do that. And Judge has a chance to do that. But Witt's got to back up a little bit, and Judge has got to come up a little bit. So there's going to be a lot to play for these guys in the next couple of weeks. In wins, Seth Lugo from Kansas City is back on top with 16 wins. He's also at a 2.94 ERA. Saves Emmanuel Class from Cleveland has 44. He's been in front the whole year, and I don't expect him to back up at all anyway. Frankly, without Class, Cleveland wouldn't be what they are. Nationally, we got Philly at 88-58. The New York Mets have forged into second place, 8 games behind. Atlanta, 9 games behind. Atlanta's leaking a little oil. And I say that because both of these teams have a 50% chance of getting in the playoffs. That's not going to sit well with the rest of the league as I get going. Milwaukee's at 83-62. They're in. In the West, you got LA at 87-59. San Diego's 5 behind. Arizona's 5 behind. There's still a little movement here in this division with New York putting on the last route here. They've been playing great ball for the last 3 weeks. So if Atlanta stumbles, New York could get in there. And it looks like Atlanta stumbling because they lost a 3-game series to Philly. Down the West, we got L.A., San Diego, and Arizona. I think they're all going to make it. And I think San Diego would like to win the division, but I don't think that's going to happen. Their pitching isn't that solid. Neither is Arizona's. And L.A. hits the ball a lot better than these guys. So San Diego, with their sluggers, has still got a chance to get up there. Arizona hits the ball well, scores a lot of runs, not pitching very well this year at all, which I'll get into next week when it's time to really put things together. Average-wise, Arias from San Diego's hit 317. Ozuna from Atlanta's hitting 303. Ohtani's hitting 292. I'm going to say this because Ozuna and Ohtani both have a chance to get the Triple Crown in the National League. Home runs, Ohtani's got 47. Ozuna's got 37. Yeah. RBIs, Wiley Adames from Milwaukee's got 102. Ohtani's 104. Ozuna's 98. Now, there's a long shot for Ohtani to win everything because he's not hitting as well as he has been. Last night he was 2 for 4 and hit a home run, so no kudos to him there. But he's got only hitting 292. He's got to do a lot better to get the Triple Crown. If he can hit better for average, home runs, he's going to be winning. He's going to win it. And RBIs, he's going to be right there with the rest of the guys. Ozuna has an outside chance for the National League Triple Crown too, but he's only got 98 RBIs. He's hitting well at 303. He got 37 home runs, so he's right in there too. But Ohtani's got a better chance to do this, and we'll be watching the next week or so to see how he's doing. It wins. Chris Sale from Atlanta's got 16. ERA Sales at 2.38. Saves. Ryan Helsley from St. Louis has 44. He's been there all along. Now, the rest of these guys, no one's really got a lot to play for when you're out of this. When you're out of the races, you just got to try to get your averages up. Try to get a better contract for you next year. But there's a lot of things to talk about, especially when it comes to the playoff time. I have to mention a few things that are pretty prevalent that happened this week. Bowden Francis from Toronto has lost 2 no-hitters, no-nos we call them, in the 9th inning in the last 2 weeks. Unheard of. Guy's pitching great. Toronto, I wish they had, more hitting besides Guerrero, and just to hit a little bit better, but he's really shined. Losing 2 no-hitters in the 9th inning in the last 2 weeks, unheard of. Manny Machado's lead, the home run leader for San Diego's franchise now. He got 164. He's got 26 this year. Kyle Schwarber, the leadoff hitter for Atlanta, has a record 35 home runs leadoff. That's a record. So you got to love that. You got to love this guy. He strikes out a lot, but man, is he a killer. Juan Soto and Aaron Judge have done some things no one's done since 2011. Judge has 51 homers and 126 RBIs. Last night, Soto hit some home runs. He's now got 40 home runs and 100 RBIs. No team since 11 has had 2 players with over 100 RBIs. Kudos to those guys. And, of course, they're going to carry the Yankees in the series. Ohtani, in all his brilliance, has another incredible statistic that he can make, and I think he will. Ohtani currently has 47 home runs. He's got 48 steals. No one in the history of baseball has ever hit 50 home runs and stolen 50 bases in 1 year. I can't wrap my head around that. Usually, small, fast guys get a lot of singles and stolen bases. Not very many home runs. This guy is so big and strong and fast that he hits home runs and he steals bases. How do you figure that? I mean, we always use the term generational talent. Well, ever since you've been with L.A. On the other side, in the American League, he's been a generational talent. He truly is incredible. I'm going to mention a few things right here before we get into to talk about the wild cards. When I look at things, I look at the strength of the teams at this time of the year, especially in short series, where there's the first wild card is only 5-game series, and the other ones after that are 7-game series. When you have a really good pitching staff, it's going to carry you in short games. Now, you've heard me talk about Philadelphia all year long, and I still believe they're the best team in the National League. With Zach Wheeler at 2.59 ERA, Aaron Nola at 3.47, Ranger Suarez at 3.06, and Carlos Sanchez at 3.33. Those are the starters for Philadelphia, and whoever's going to play them is going to face these guys. And these guys are tough, especially Wheeler. So Philadelphia has the impetus going forward. I think they're the best team in the National League, and they got the best pitching right now. When you flip over to the American League, Houston, as you know, is one of my favorite teams all year long. I prognosticated that they would win 2 months ago, and they are, and they were pulling away. Now, why did they do that? Well, it's because of pitching. Framber Valdez is a 2.97 ERA. Blanco is at 2.49. Hunter Brown at 3.41. Josh Hader, the nasty guy who throws a wicked slider, at 3.32 and 29 saves. Houston, again, will carry series that are short with this kind of pitching staff. And if Hader can pick up where he left off, he'll be fine. He got off to a rough start with Houston this year, and they really bombed him. But the last 2 weeks, he's really coming forward. Now, also on the other side is Kansas City's. You've heard me talk about Seth Lugo all year long. That's true. Seth Lugo has a 2.94 ERA. Cole Revens has got 3.33. Michael Wacha, used to be with St. Louis, 3.33. And Sid Clare is 3.42. These 4 guys are going to carry Kansas City. That's why I think they're going to get the division crown, and they're going to be tough in the series. And that's it right now, Daniel. I have other stuff, but we got to get talking first.
Yeah, I mean, there's, and I appreciate the background that you always give, PJ. There's so many things to look at, right? There's so much going on in this world of baseball and how far we're getting into these standings and where things sit right now. And I think one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing that we can talk about, is that the Mets have put themselves into the postseason currently. Now, the Mets, when we look at the standings for the wild card, they have the final spot. They have the third spot of 3 wild cards. It makes them the 6th seed in the National League. With a record of 80-66, they are a full game above the Braves. The Braves are 79-67. So you add these numbers together and say the Mets have played 146 games. They have 162 altogether, so I'm thinking 160. They have 16 games left. Who do you believe is going to make it? Who will squeak it out? The Braves have been able to stay in the hunt. They've been able at times to get under double-digit games to the Phillies, right? Get themselves within 5 games, 7 games, and whatnot. The Braves have won without Ronald Acuna Jr. They have won without him for many, many weeks now. Do you think the Braves will find their way to stick it out and retake this and do what they've been doing, which is be behind Philly all season and keep the Mets out? Or do you think this surge by the Mets, do you buy into this surge by the Mets, and do you think that this surge is not just a blip on the radar, but this surge is going to create enough energy for them to get into the postseason? Essentially, what I'm asking you here is if we look at the electricity of the wild card and we look and see where that electricity runs to, what grid do you think is going to power itself better? The Braves or the Mets?
This is a good question. In the last 10 games, the Mets are 8-2, or the Braves are 5-5. That's how they caught up with them. The Braves are at 56.1%, and the Mets at 56.4%, relatively tied. But that doesn't tell the whole story, because Atlanta's got a much better pitching staff. Anyone who plays Atlanta has got to face Chris Sale. And we know all year long he's led with wins and ERA at 2.94. Max Fried, who has come out to be the second starter, at 3.35 ERA. There's another couple of guys back there that are pitching well too. But I think the Mets, even though they've played well, they've been hitting the hell out of the ball. Their pitching has been fair. They've been winning games 10-8, 9-7, stuff like that. Alonso's hitting well. Lindor had an outside chance of being an MVP this year, but he faltered in the last week. O'Neill is killing the ball. One last night, he had a walk-off 3-run homer. They're hitting very well. They're not pitching very well. I still think that the Braves are the better team to sneak back up there, and actually that's going to knock the Mets out of there. So whoever lasts in this division is going to be in the wild card. Everyone else, no.
Yeah, and so, I mean, the Mets, like you said, what they've been able to do recently here and go 8-2 with the Braves going 5-5 has aided the Mets in finding their way, right? You got to win, but you also got to hope that the team in front of you falters a little bit, and that's what happened. So the other race is very close between two teams that are a half a game apart. They have fought to within 3 games, a series, if you will, of the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Diamondbacks and the Padres have fought to get close to the Dodgers and fought at the same time to separate from each other. They're only a half a game apart. But the difference, the Padres in the last 10 have gone 5-5. The Diamondbacks have gone 6-4. That one extra win gives the Diamondbacks a half a game lead, and the Diamondbacks are now the number 1 team in the wild card, which would become the 4 seed of the National League. PJ, with 2 teams that are above 80 wins this season, they're on pace to bare minimum, well, they're going to go over this, but they're on pace this season. When you look at 162 games, 162, if you divide that by 2, that's 81-81. So they've already won more than half of their games. They're on pace to continue to have success. We could see both of them get to 90 wins or somewhere close to that. Who's the better team between the Diamondbacks and the Padres when they can't seem to leave each other alone?
Another good question. Both of these guys are not pitching very well at all. Don't like that. I don't profess that that's going to be valuable in the series. I think San Diego hits the ball a little bit better. They got Manny Machado, who I mentioned earlier. Fernando Tatis is back off the IR. Jake Shenanworth. These guys pound the hell out of the ball. And Arizona has their hitters, too. The only thing that bothers me is Arizona's ERA is still well over 4, and you're not going to win anything doing that. But last year they proved that they could pitch a little better and hit a little bit better to make it almost there. But I don't think that either one of these guys, Los Angeles is going to have to back up. So before either one of these guys can be considered to win the division, it's wide open still, if you want to call it that. Los Angeles still has to win their series going forward. As you say, there's only 12 games left. So we'll see where this goes. It really, it doesn't make any difference because all three of these teams are strong, and all three of them are going to make the playoffs. So I would think that the managers are going to play some players that would like to get into the division playoffs. At this time of the year, the amount of players that a team can have goes from 23 to 28. So they each have 5 players that were brought up to the minor leagues or signed on. So it gives the managers a good chance to see some of these other guys to play. Arizona and San Diego are good teams. They're going to prove it in the series probably, but I don't think anything's going to change in this division, Daniel. They'll flip back and forth, but all three are going to make it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, this division has been extremely close, and these races have been more than fun to watch, as the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Diego Padres have pushed enough that even though they're second and third, or third and second, as they flip back and forth, one's 2, one's 3, they are overall in the National League have done enough to put themselves in good footing. Let's go to the American League for a second. Some of the things you were talking about, PJ. Cleveland Guardians are not only in first place in their division of the American League Central, but they're first overall. They have a record of 84-62, the same as the Yankees, but as of right now, they hold the number 1 spot in the American League. The Kansas City Royals, who you predicted would win their division, and I eventually came along that way as well, right? You said it early on, and I said, you know what? That's going to be I'm going to say it here. When Kansas City was second or third, I think they were third at the time. I said, I agree with you. I think they're going to do this thing. Well, they are in the postseason if it started today. They're a game and a half above the Twins, who have the last wild card spot. The Royals have the second to last wild card spot, 3 games behind looking at this, 3 games behind the Baltimore Orioles. So the Guardians are not only winning the AL Central, the Guardians are the number 1 team in the American League. The Kansas City Royals, that you and I believe can pull off winning the American League Central Division, they have a record of 80-67. The Guardians have a record of 84-62. Are the Guardians the real deal? Do the Royals still have a chance? How do you look at the American League Central when we see the talent of the Guardians and the Royals?
I think the talent swings Kansas City's way, definitely. Cleveland has just been playing good ball all year long. I thought they were just a little a flicker of light when they first started the season, and they proved me wrong. They've stayed ahead and kept rolling. Kansas City's been playing good ball the last month of the season. So has Minnesota. There's an outside chance that Detroit can get there at 11.2%. Now that can only change if Kansas City or Minnesota above them loses. Now look, losing streaks they happen in this game. If Kansas City loses 3 or 4 in a row, or Minnesota loses 3 or 4 in a row, and Detroit wins 4 or 5 in a row, then that's going to tighten that whole race up. I don't think that's going to happen because Kansas City's too good, and Cleveland's just been there. I mean, they've been there. They've had Stephen Kwan has been hitting really good this year, and Jose Ramirez is one of my favorite players. He leads the team in home runs and RBI. So They got some sluggers. They got fair pitching. Kansas City's got good pitching, as I noticed earlier, with Lugo, Ravens, Wacha, and Brady Singer go Gators. Singer with 3.42 ERA. Still like Kansas City, but again, all three teams are tough. They've been playing good ball, and they're all going to make the playoffs if they don't falter and let Detroit slip in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see as things shake out where these teams stack up. The Cleveland Guardians have done some good things, but the Kansas City Royals are hot on their heels. The Houston Astros are where you thought they would be. You said, 15, 16 games in when they were struggling. You said they're going to win the division. And Seattle was ahead at the time. Texas was in it. And Houston, second, third in their division, found a way to do it. So PJ was right about that in the American League West. You've been right about a lot of things, PJ. So my question to you before we jump out of baseball is, as we look at both sides of this thing, who in the American League and who in the National League, if you had to vote today, if you had to put your feet to the fire today, who is the American League MVP and who is the National League MVP, if you had to choose right now?
Oh, the MVP, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I think Aaron Judge is certainly leading that. As I stated earlier, he's got a chance to win a Triple Crown with batting average, home runs, and RBIs. He's certainly going to run. He's certainly going to win the home runs and RBI chase. People better he can do that. Again, we use the term generational talent, and he is that. Even though he's a little older guy, but he's a killer. In the National League, you look at Ohtani again. I mean, the guy is incredible. I mean, look what I just stated before about home runs and stolen bases. Who can do that in the last 25 to 30 years? Who is eligible to do that? And I can tell you, no one is able to do that. This kid is 6'5" and 230 pounds. He's a killer at the plate. We know how good of a pitcher he is, and he can run. He's fantastic. I mean, the more I look at him a lot with L.A. Angels because I used to have the Major League Baseball program. And he just amazed me every time he took the field. And that's not pitching, He's not pitching this year. So, Ozuna's got an outside shot at it, but right now Ohtani's got a stranglehold on it. He can hit a little bit better. He can get the most valuable player or the Triple Crown, but he certainly is going to be there with the stolen bases and home runs. People who follow baseball like me over all these years, I can't remember anyone who's ever come close to doing that. I know that the Ronald Acuna from Atlanta hit 70 home runs, he stole 70 bases and hit 40 home runs, something like that. That was another record. But to do 50 and 50 is unheard of. When he comes back off the injured reserve list next year, he'll probably take right off again. Acuna's another hell of a player, too. But for the National League MVP, I'm just going to have to go with Ohtani again.
Yeah. And that's, I'm not surprised that you're going Ohtani and Judge. I think Judge is probably excited about the fact that Ohtani's not on his side anymore, so they could both win MVP now because you got one in the American League, one in the National League. So it'll be interesting to see. And, obviously, as we get closer and closer, these divisional races become more and more hot, more and more exciting. How are teams doing? I think it's important to look at the Yankees, the Orioles, and the Royals have all gone 5-5 in their last 10. The Twins went 4-6. The Astros have gone 4-6. The only team of the 6 teams in the American League that are currently in the playoffs, if they happen today, the only team that has a winning record in their last 10, the Guardians, 7-3. On the National League side of it, in the last 10, we have seen the Padres go 5-5, the Dodgers go 5-5, the Brewers go 4-6, the Diamondbacks barely over the equator line at 6-4, and the Mets and the Phillies, both in the same division of the National League East, have gone 8-2. So, you look at this, it's not necessarily how you start, it's how you finish. I think the Royals have proven that, the Astros have proven that, the Mets are trying to prove that right now. So we shall see as we edge closer to 16 games left for some teams, some a little bit more, some a little bit less. We're under 20 games to go, folks, and because of how many games are played in a given week, when PJ and I see you next week, guess what? We're going to be even closer. We're going to be a few steps away. You know, you look at how many games can be played in the next 7 days with 16 games to go, let's say, essentially. When we come back to you again, that's less than 2 weeks worth of games. And the hunt is truly coming to a close, and we'll have to see how these teams end their series and what they do. PJ, any final notes on baseball before we take a step aside?
I do.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the other teams do not want to face Houston. They know how good Houston is. They haven't known all year long and last year, even though they lost to Texas. They're killers. They got Altuve and Bregman and Alvarez hitting the ball well, and they got the 4 pitchers that I mentioned earlier. No one wants to face Houston, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, a lot of things going on here. You got a hot Mets team. You got a Diamondbacks team trying to stay hot. You got a Guardians team trying to refine their footing of some of the losses that they had taken. You have the Yankees and the Orioles fighting with each other all the way through the entire season. You have the Phillies and the Dodgers trying to figure out who's going to get the top seed. And you have the Diamondbacks and the Padres trying to figure out who's going to be the top in the wild card. A lot to be had, a lot to be done. And the Milwaukee Brewers and the Minnesota Twins, teams like that, they're trying to hang tough where they are. Detroit Tigers aren't out of it. Like you mentioned, the Boston Red Sox and Seattle's done enough to be hanging in here too. But we'll see as we step forward in Major League Baseball. A lot of fun, a lot of excitement. And the great thing about talking with PJ is I don't give him any of these questions. I don't do that with Pete. We don't give you the questions beforehand. This is everything I'm going to ask you. Be prepared for it, right? This isn't a debate that's on certain networks where people give you the information. I don't tell PJ what I'm going to ask him. And the fact that I can ask these questions and he has all of these notes right in front of him and he immediately has an answer, at this point I'm thinking maybe Papa Joe should run for president.
I like that. I'm a little bit old, though.
So,
my man Trump, he'll hang in there.
So with that being said, we'll take a step aside on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. When we come back, PJ and I are staying on the field, but we're switching over to football. College football Week 2 recap. PJ and I picked the same 10 teams. We never know who the other person's picking, but we went with the same 10. Did that work in our favor, or did that work against us? You'll find out after the break. You'll also get our picks for Week 3 and so much more coming up, including the NFL. Can we please be done with the Taylor Swift? And here's the thing. There's thousands of players in the NFL. And if they're all dating someone or married to someone, if you're going to show her, you might as well show their wives and their girlfriends. Maybe Pat Mahomes, who's throwing to Travis Kelce, maybe put his wife out there a little bit more. I'm sick and tired of this stuff that takes away from the field itself. I love support. I love people being out there. Jessica Simpson was considered a distraction when they kept cutting to her years ago. Taylor Swift is considered to be the wonderful cutaway. How does Jessica Simpson be a distraction and Taylor Swift is a necessary cutaway? Well, folks, that's just how life goes sometimes. Hypocrisy is very much alive and well in the United States of America, and change needs to come. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll be back right after this, where sports meets life. Stay with us. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McInerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Brian's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Brian's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business, had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees, and as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about, owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in 2007, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There was a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really changed the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allowing customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servomation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water machine, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean to cup coffee machine. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. In a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I can tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Happy to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It's hour number 2, which means it's football time with PJ and I. Some people might go, you know what, if I listen to Sirius Radio, I got Bill Belichick. Well, I got Bill Bella PJ. That's what I got. I got the P to the Jizzle, J. Edgar Twizzle. I have the diamond in the rough, okay? So you might be able to listen to a Tom Brady or a Bill Belichick, but nobody breaks it down like Papa Joe does, and he has a better bedside manner. So what doctor would you rather have? I'd rather have Dr. PJ. So with that being said, it's time to take a look at our college football and where we stack up. So I'm going to bring them up on the screen here, folks, let you know how things shook out, and then PJ and I are going to give our thoughts about it. So here we go. We picked SMU over BYU, and SMU could not figure out a way to score in this game, so SMU ends up losing the game, unfortunately, for the Mustangs. They just did not get it done. They didn't finish. They didn't close out, and it's a great unfortunate to them and a great unfortunate to PJ and I because we picked the Mustangs of SMU, so they did not get the victory, and so we're going to go ahead and cross them out on the screen here for both of us. We did pick Texas over Michigan. Texas blew out Michigan. PJ and I will be talking about that in a moment, so we both had Texas. We picked Utah over Baylor, who barely got out of that one, and that's a victory there for them. So we got the Utah one right. Kentucky at home loses big time to South Carolina. Couldn't even get themselves to double digits in scoring. Fly Slamma Jamma Bama struggled against South Florida until the final 6 minutes and change of the game. It was a one-possession game, 21-16 Alabama, with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I just want to let people know, last year, South Florida hung with Alabama when Alabama came to Tampa. And this year, South Florida goes to Alabama, to Tuscaloosa, and they hung with the Crimson Tide for 3.5 quarters. Shout out to Alex Golish, who I've gotten to know. He's doing a tremendous job over there. Tennessee blows out NC State. That was a game of where Dave Doran is, which is NC State, and where some people prognosticated they thought he was going, which was Tennessee. Tennessee gets the win. Clemson takes out their loss to Georgia on Appalachian State and blows them out of the water. Oregon wins their matchup over Boise. This is the one, I had messed this up when I said that Utah squeaked one out. I was talking about Oregon. I messed up the game. So Oregon barely got by Boise State. They won by, I believe, a field goal. And then the Go Gators got their victory over Samford, which is a church in Florida. And then Syracuse defeated Georgia Tech 31-28 at home. And so PJ and I, both in week 2 of college football, went 8-2, PJ. You and I getting 8 out of 10 games correct. Your thoughts?
Well, I saw a lot of cupcakes in this last week. I'm happy that we did what we did, but, cupcakes are part of the landscape now. I don't know if I agree with it. I know that my Gators beat Samford. I mean, who the hell is Samford? I mean, they're like they're just a double-A football team. Of course, we had a quarterback that shined, and hopefully we're going to play. But I saw a lot of cupcakes. Georgia, Tennessee Tech. Come on now. LSU and Nicholls State. Where is Nicholls State? I have no idea. Clemson and Appalachian State. Even though Appalachian State in the last couple of years has knocked off some guys, not lately. Ohio State against Western Michigan. Missouri against Buffalo. Miami against Florida A&M. LSU at Nicholls State, I said. And Florida Sanford. These are cupcakes you're expected to win.
Yeah.
So I don't, they got, Florida certainly needs to boost up their the win total, considering they got the toughest schedule in football this year. So I don't know. I know that watching the football, I tried to get the Florida game on, and we couldn't get it. I couldn't stream it either, but it was no fun watching it, but I followed it play-by-play. And the number one quarterback in the last year out of high school, DJ Lagway, signed with Florida. He's got a Gatorade Player of the Year, and this kid is a player. He didn't miss a beat against Sanford. He threw for 456 yards and 3 touchdowns, and just footballs on a dime, 35, 40 yards down the field. I mean, this kid's the real deal. I mean, he's a big, strong, tough kid, and I'm happy that he's with Florida. What I'm not happy about is that he's got Billy Napier messing around with him now. Napier has got to make up his mind whether he's going to play Graham Mertz, who's a 6th-year senior, which makes sense, or you play your future of your program. And the future of Billy Napier is DJ Lagway, not Graham Mertz. So if I were you, I'd be playing DJ Lagway, because when you get fired, he may stick around. If you get fired and you lose, he's gone. That's it in a nutshell. These kids these days play for 4 different schools in 4 years. In Lagway's case, he's a diehard Gator, but, it all happens. I mean, the schedule is brutal, Daniel. It's brutal.
Yeah.
If they win 5 games this year, it'd be a miracle. But 5 games winning may be able to save Billy Napier's job, because it's really a difficult schedule. And Lagway, of course, I want him to stay.
Yeah. Talking about the schedule being brutal, Michigan, who typically never gets challenged in recent history in non-conference play. By the way, non-conference is typically 4 games. Conference is typically 8 games. While the Big Ten, which has its own separate set of rules for mostly everything, including when the media is deciding the top 25 and the coaches are deciding the top 25 and the College Football Playoff Committee is deciding the top 25, they only have to play 3 non-conference games. And typically Michigan plays a church, a bakery, and a preschool playground as their 3 games. Well, this year they decided to play Texas. They actually got challenged in the beginning of the season. And how did they respond to the challenge? Well, the unfair advantage Michigan Wolverines in Big Ten, and again, I'll say this, I do not have anything against Michigan. I do not have anything against the Big Ten. I'm just stating an obvious fact that is based in evidence over the last few years. Michigan has an unfair advantage in the polls. They play an easier schedule. Most of their conference games that they play are unranked teams, and the biggest game is Ohio State because they've ranked them high to start the season. So it looks like a big-time matchup, when in reality, if Ohio State's playing no ranked teams and Michigan's playing no ranked teams, why are they both ranked in the top 3 in the country all year long, or in the top 10 at least? Well, Michigan got challenged, PJ. They had Texas come to town, and Texas is in their first season in the SEC. What did Texas do, PJ? Blew Michigan out of the water. It was horns up all game. They won by 19 points, almost 3 touchdowns, 31-12. What does this say about Michigan playing a team that, and granted it was at home because of course Michigan has to be home to start the season, but the fact that they actually played competition in non-conference play, they actually played a ranked team from another conference in the season at all, and that they lost by 19 at home.
Well, I'm not sure that Michigan's got the right coach. I mean, I know that they promoted this guy when Harbaugh left, but boy, you don't lose like that at home against a big-time team like Texas. Now, they still can right the ship a little bit, but I think the other teams like Penn State and Illinois and these other teams, Ohio State, maybe licking their chops when it comes to playing Michigan these days. I thought they looked horrible. I watched half of the game, and what do I always say about when the game is won? The game is won on the line of scrimmage, both sides, offensive line, defensive line. And Texas was bigger, faster, stronger, and had better players. And boy, they looked it. I wouldn't want to play Texas this year.
And then we look at another team that, besides the Big Ten, gets an unfair advantage in the polls. Every single year, they're considered a top 25 team. In recent history, they're considered a top 10 team. Most recently, they were considered a top 5 team in the nation. Top 5 team in the nation. Well, Northern mother-freaking Illinois came into town of the pack, and they went to South Bend. Let me paint a little picture for you that are playing the home game. Syracuse, Penn State, and Notre Dame played the MAC in non-conference play in the first 2 weeks of this season. They all played at home. Syracuse defeated Ohio of the MAC by 16. Ohio has had back-to-back 10-win seasons. Penn State faced Boise State at home and barely got out alive, winning by one score, 7 points. People said, or may have said, or may have thought, well, Syracuse beat Ohio. They're not ranked. They're not a Big 12 team. They're not a Big 10 team. They're not an SEC team. They're not an ACC team, so who cares? It's not a big deal. It's the MAC. Some people thinking it's not a good game. You're supposed to win. Okay. Well, if Syracuse, who's unranked, is supposed to beat another unranked team who's had back-to-back 10-win seasons, well, they did that. Penn State, who is ranked in the top 8 in the nation, barely beat an unranked Bowling Green. So the question becomes, if a win over the MAC isn't a big deal to some, what is a loss to the MAC? Because Notre Dame, the number 5 ranked team in the nation, for reasons unbeknownst to me, lost at home in South Bend 16-14, couldn't even score 20 points against Northern Illinois. They lose 16-14. So Syracuse is not in the top 25, but they beat a MAC team, has back-to-back 10-win seasons. They beat them by 16. Penn State, a top 10 team, barely beats Bowling Green, but ranked in the top 10. Notre Dame loses to an unranked team, and Notre Dame is still ranked in the top 20. So, PJ, 2 questions. Number 1, how does a top 5 team lose to Northern Illinois? And number 2, why is Notre Dame still considered one of the top 20 best teams in the country when they lost to a team that arguably came into the game ranked maybe in the 60s or the 80s in the nation of 134 teams?
That's true. Well, Northern Illinois is number 25 now, so people will be looking up to them. I thought it was a great game. I thought they had a good game plan. They attacked the line of scrimmage. I like to use it. Sometimes I like to use the term outballed. Not ball, but ball. You know what I'm talking about? But anyway,
Yeah.
Notre Dame just didn't click, and their coaches over there. Anytime a coach is looking with a blank expression on their face and not moving his hands and feet and throwing down his everything, he's not in the game. He wasn't in the game. I don't know why, but they certainly look at. They lost to an unranked team, as you said, and they are now 25. I don't know what Notre Dame is. What, number 20 or 19 or something like that?
18.
Yeah, 18. So, where are you going with this, Notre Dame? Where are you going with this? Either you're going to pick yourself up off the ground and go forward, or you're going to lose 3 or 4 more games. A game like this, especially with Michigan and Notre Dame, a game like this can go a long way to not winning a national title or even getting in the playoffs. So they have a lot to think about because, frankly, if you're a 2-loss team, I don't think you make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it's crazy. Doesn't make sense. Does not make sense. Syracuse beats Ohio, who I said, again, a 10-win team back-to-back seasons in the MAC. They beat Ohio, and then they beat a ranked team. They're not in the top 25. Penn State plays 2 unranked teams. They're number 8 in the country. Notre Dame loses to an unranked team. They're number 18 in the country. Make it make sense. I wouldn't mention it if it wasn't staring you all in the face. And as you've all realized, in America in 2024, common sense has become uncommon to some, and I am trying to reestablish that common sense is common. If it's not, then it would be called uncommon sense. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you're making arguments for Penn State to be a top 10 team and Notre Dame to be a top 18 team, then Syracuse, bare minimum, should be number 25 in the country. And by the way, how does Northern Illinois get ranked lower than the team they beat? Well, because Northern Illinois isn't Notre Dame, but they beat them head to head. Well, come on, Dan. Well, come on, Dan, what? Notre Dame's 1-1. They were saying with 11 games to go after one game, they were saying, oh, Notre Dame's got an easy schedule. They only play 2 true road contests. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They were already crowning Notre Dame a college football playoff team before 11 of their 12 games were played. Well, they lost to Northern Illinois. What say you now? It's amazing how an unfair advantage, it's really hard to argue unfair advantages when you lose games. It's really hard to argue when you get beat at home. Are you going to call it a quality loss? Because we know in the Big Ten, if Ohio State or Michigan loses to anybody, it was a quality loss. But if Clemson remember, Clemson lost to Georgia, the number 1 team in the country, 34-3. And Clemson fell from 14 to 25. Texas beats Michigan, and Texas wasn't the number 1 team in the country. Do you know how far Michigan fell? They fell to 17. So Michigan fell fewer spots than Clemson. Why? If Georgia is arguably better than Texas, why did Clemson get punished all the way to the bottom of the top 25, but Michigan doesn't fall all the way down when they lose to a team that's not ranked number 1 in the country? I'll tell you why. Because the Big Ten is protected more than the ACC, the AAC, the MAC, the Sun Belt, Conference USA, the Mountain West, arguably the Big 12. The only conference that probably has a leg up in the polls above the Big Ten is the SEC. But the difference between the SEC and the Big Ten, the SEC backs it up. They might get an unfair advantage, but they win. The Big Ten doesn't win 9 times out of 10 with an unfair advantage. They've won 2 college football playoffs. The first one, Ohio State over Oregon, and the most recent one, when Michigan won amidst scandals that had their coach suspended. So, and by the way, Jim Harbaugh wins a championship, goes to the NFL, and then the NCAA punishes him? Seems all too coincidental to me. Before we get into our Week 3 picks, I do want to make mention of this. We said it in the beginning of the show, and this is how fast things change, PJ. Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and Fresno State will, in fact, join the Pac-12. They announced it this morning. So, craziness here. 2026-27 season, they're going to be joining. Now, the board of directors of the Pac-12 unanimously approved the applications from these schools, who will join Oregon and Washington State, which will make 6 total schools. Now, Pac-12 Commissioner, Teresa Gould, said in a statement, quote, "For over a century, the Pac-12 Conference has been recognized as a leading brand in intercollegiate athletics. We will continue to pursue bold, cutting-edge opportunities for growth and progress to best serve our member institutions and student-athletes. I am thankful to our board for their efforts to welcome Boise State University, Colorado State University, California State University, Fresno, which is what Fresno State is called, California State University, Fresno, and San Diego State University to the conference. An exciting new era for the Pac-12 Conference begins today," end quote. Now, Mountain West Commissioner Gloria Nevarez released a statement herself. She said, quote, "The Mountain West Conference is aware of media reports regarding," she released this on yesterday. "The Mountain West Conference is aware of media reports regarding the potential departure of several of our members, and we will have more to say in the days ahead. All members will be held to the conference bylaws and policies should they elect to depart. The requirements of the scheduling agreement will apply to the Pac-12 should they admit Mountain West members. Our board of directors is meeting to determine our next steps. The Mountain West has a proud 25-year history and will continue to thrive in the years ahead." End quote. Mountain West bylaws require departing schools to pay their exit fee of almost $18 million if they give 2 years' notice, which is what the 4 schools expect to pay. Now that number would jump to $36 million with 1 year's notice. See, I've asked the American Athletic Conference what their exit fee were and if they were going to change certain things. Seems like the Mountain West has done it right. Hey, if you want to leave in 2 years, it's $18 million apiece. If you want to cut that to 1 year, we double it. So if you want to cut your exit time in half, we double the payout. How about that? Cut the time in half, and it turns into a double on the other side. $36 million per team, per school, I should say, if they wanted to leave a year early. The Pac-12 is expected to be in position to help the schools with the exit fees due to withheld media rights distribution fees to departed members and other conference assets. The conference would also be subjected to $43 million in poaching fees, as outlined in the scheduling agreement between the conferences this year that resulted in Oregon State and Washington State playing 6 Mountain West opponents. Now, John David Wicker, San Diego State Director of Athletics, he said, quote, "We are ecstatic to be joining the Pac-12 Conference. While we are grateful to be a founding member of the Mountain West with 26 years of success in the conference, we are excited at what lies ahead with these new opportunities." End quote. Now, the 6 members together will look at further expansion. They still have to add, as I stated before, 2 more schools in order to meet the NCAA's minimum requirement to be an FBS conference for football. The conference is in the first year of a 2-year grace period that was afforded by the NCAA bylaws to exist below the minimum in the case of departures. We still do not know how many schools will go after, but I can imagine that Cal and Stanford, in my opinion, will be on the list. As I posted during the show on our social media, I said I have stated repeatedly that the Cal Golden Bears and Stanford Cardinal going to the ACC was a quote-unquote Band-Aid move, meaning that it was a temporary move to help Cal and Stanford, as well as the ACC, until the West Coast had a conference emerge. Cut to the Pac-12 returning. Crazy how it all goes down. PJ, your thoughts on this becoming a reality, that in 2026-27, the Pac-12, which I told you was not dead, I said the name didn't go away, the logo didn't go away. If it ain't dead, honey, it ain't dead. Well, she ain't dead, and the 2-year grace period, it seems like the Pac-12, who, from the outside looking in, it looked like they didn't know what they were doing. Their TV deal had run out. They lost all these schools. They got poached by the Big 12. They got poached by the Big 10. Then the ACC took Cal and Stanford, and they were left with only 2. Oh, man, they made so many bad decisions. However, look at how smart they are. They let the deal run out. The deal is gone. They don't owe anybody anything. The teams that left, the schools that left, owe them money for media rights. So they're still getting money from those that departed, which helps them stay afloat, which helps them go and look for other schools, which helps them maybe assist in exit fees and in poaching fees, whatever fees that are going on. So they keep some money. They lose these schools. The Pac-12 is left for dead. They look like they might have been very dumb in this situation. However, you get a 2-year grace period from the NCAA. That 2-year grace period will put them into 2026. And in 2026, they'll have schools there. They've had money that they're still getting from the schools that left them. So you keep money. You have places of revenue coming in that can help you pay for these fees that it may cost to bring these other schools in. So you're getting money. You got a new TV deal that you're looking to put out there. Did all of this kind of work out in the Pac-12's favor? A 2-year hiatus, money from the schools that left, having the opportunity to negotiate a new deal as you're bringing in these teams. The Pac-12 looked like they had no idea what they were doing, but dare I say it, Papa Joe, they might have been letting themselves, quote-unquote, die so that they could emerge in a way that they wanted to. Hey, you know what? Let me let them think that we're gone. But we're going to bring in all this money. We're going to put it in a bank account. We're going to make a connection to the Mountain West with a scheduling agreement to talk with these schools. So we're going to use that agreement to poach those schools. We already got money to help pay for those poaching fees. We can negotiate a new media rights deal now that we are trying to rebrand ourselves. And we got a 2-year hiatus, which protects us as a conference of not having to meet the minimum. It seems like a conference that was left for stupid might actually be smart at the end of this.
True. I think the Mountain West has got a very good legal argument. And apparently these teams that are leaving are going to have to pay an awful lot of money. I'm not sure that they're prepared to do that. And certainly with Cal and Stanford being in the ACC, they're looking at that money deal they got at the ACC, and they said, oh, my God, this is great. I'm not going back over out west. So, Cal and Stanford have got to look at this, too. If they can make more money, it all bases on money, Daniel. It's all money. TV rights and cable rights and everything else, it's all money.
Yeah.
And if Cal and Stanford can't afford to leave the ACC when they just got there, they're not going to leave. So it's going to leave them to hustle another 2 teams, probably from the Mountain West. Again, I don't know if there's any more teams left. I don't know what their legal standing is, but apparently from what you were saying, that the Mountain West has a very good legal argument saying that if you leave, you pay us $18 million. If you leave in a year, it's $36 million. I'm not prepared. These schools are going to, I don't think these schools are prepared to do that, Daniel. I don't think they had that kind of money. Colorado State, San Diego State, Fresno State, Boise State probably does, but the other teams, I don't know if they have that kind of money.
Yeah, I mean, we shall see how it all shakes out, but it seems like the Pac-12, who I told you was not dead, is very much alive and all of a sudden back in the news. PJ, it's time for us to pick our college football Week 3 games. So I will hand it off to you first. And as we look at Week 3 and look at the teams that we have to choose from, there is a full slate of games as we are early on in the season. However, there's already bye weeks in these first few weeks of the season. Syracuse and Stanford that will face off against each other in the Dome next Friday night, not Saturday, Friday night. Well, they're both off this week. There are games tonight, PJ. Arizona State and Texas State at Texas State will happen at Bobcat Stadium in San Marcos, Texas tonight. And Northwestern State at South Alabama will also happen tonight in Mobile, Alabama. Friday night we have UNLV at Kansas, and we have Arizona at Kansas State. I'm going to ask you, as our first game is going to be a Friday the 13th game. On Friday, September 13th, Arizona, 20 in the country, with arguably the best wide receiver in the nation, at number 14 Kansas State on Fox at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Who are you picking for Arizona at Kansas State?
This is a good game. I researched these guys, and this is going to be a good game. The only reason I'm going to take Kansas State is because they're home. Because frankly, this is a flip-em game. This is probably 3. I don't know. The line says 7, but I just not anywhere near that. It should be 3. This is a pick-em game, so I'm going to stay with Kansas State.
PJ is going to go with Kansas State. I am going to. I've said a lot off the air about this team recently. I think I'll be saying a lot more on the air in the coming weeks here if they continue to do what I think they could be capable of doing, and that is that I am picking the Arizona Wildcats in their first season in the Big 12, and McMillan, their wide receiver, 12 catches, 315 yards, averaging over 26 yards a catch, 4 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks of the season. Tortora, McMillan, their number 1 wide receiver and arguably the best wide receiver in the nation. He wears number 4. Look out for the junior wide receiver for them Cats. I am going with Arizona on the road to continue my belief that this team could have a very special season. So I will pick Arizona. PJ picks Kansas State in a game that will be played in Kansas. Next game that we have up here, PJ, on the docket is going to take us out of Friday Night Football, and it's going to put us into Saturday at noon Eastern Time, also on Fox. Alabama's playing Wisconsin, a team that's typically ranked in the top 25 or top 20 every single year, only to fall out. Is Wisconsin going to be a threat to Alabama, who, mind you, and I would love for you to tell me your thoughts on this, as I mentioned earlier, South Florida, Alex Golesh, in his second season as the head coach of the team, last season in his first season, Alabama came to South Florida and they held them under 20 and they made it a game. This season, people look at that end score of the Alabama-South Florida game that happened last week in College Football Week 2. You got to look at the game itself. This was a one-possession game with under 7 minutes to play. They hung with Alabama in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, and half of the fourth quarter. I don't think anybody gave South Florida a chance, but I remembered last year, and holy crap, did they hold serve this year. So I'd love to get your thoughts about South Florida and what they're doing to make it a game against Alabama, where some people probably thought, most people probably thought, they were going to be blowout games last year and this year. Would love to know what you think about that, as well as who you're picking for Alabama, Wisconsin.
Last year's game was a surprise. I thought that South Florida did a hell of a job in that game. And to get the answer to the question for this year, all they had to do this year was look at the tape from last year and say, hey, fellas, let's do the same thing against the same team, against the same quarterback. And they did. And it almost turned out to be a victory. They're to be reckoned with. They're a physical team. And one thing with Alabama, especially when Nick Saban was there, I'm not sure about DeVos, but they're always physical. They're physical up front. The running backs are physical. They're just a tough physical team. Now, to go to Wisconsin, my boys over there are saying, this ain't going to happen on our side. Wisconsin always is physical. They always have a big bunch of guys on the front end, on the offensive line especially. They like to run the hell out of the ball, and this is a very dangerous game. I'm going to pick Alabama, but I tell you, the line is 16. Come on, I mean, I'd take, if I had $100 on me now, I'd be taking Wisconsin in 16. But anyway, I like Alabama, but this is a very dangerous game for them.
Fly slamma jamma Bama. I'm going with Alabama as well. Jalen Milroe, I'm still not sold on him as the leader of this team yet, but we shall see. South Florida got to him, sacked him multiple times, gave him big-time losses, and I think South Florida may have arguably provided one of their best matches they're going to have this season as opposed to some other teams they're going to play. I think Wisconsin being at home is a good thing. We know the Big Ten plays in the trenches. We know the Big Ten is very physical, and we know that they understand how important an offensive and defensive line are. So I'm not counting Wisconsin out, but I'm giving Alabama the edge. Oklahoma State at Tulsa. We've seen this happen before, PJ. Tulsa has held serve. Tulsa has made it a game. There have been teams inside of the American Athletic Conference against the Oklahomas and the Oklahoma States of the world that have made these into games. Again, like South Florida, you look at the end score and don't realize, oh, they scored 3 touchdowns and 3 minutes left in the game or something like that. Tulsa is at home. They're playing Oklahoma State. Does Tulsa, in your opinion, have a shot in this game? They've beaten Northwestern State. They barely lost at Arkansas State. That game was on the road. Tulsa is hosting Oklahoma State. They've been known, like I said, to take these teams inside of the state of Oklahoma where they also play and make the game somewhat interesting at times. Oklahoma State at Tulsa. Any shot for Tulsa?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Tulsa's that kind of a team this year. I do admit that in the last couple of years they've been tough, but I don't see that right now. And watching Oklahoma State last week, they passed the ball a hell of a lot, and they're an 18.5 point favorite. I don't see them slipping up here at all. I like Oklahoma State.
Yeah, got to remember here, Kevin Wilson, the head coach of the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. I had him on the broadcast. You can go back and watch my conversation with him. He has had a lot of experience all around college football and has gotten to be around a lot of people. You definitely want to go back and listen to our show and his timeline that he's had. So I think that Tulsa has a coach that's more seasoned than maybe people know from the outside looking in. But I'm going to agree with you, PJ. I think that for this year, OK State, I think they're going to be okay in this one on the road, but still in their home state of Oklahoma. So I'm going to give them the win in the matchup. Next one that we have up, PJ, South Carolina just went on the road and smacked Kentucky. They blew them out. They didn't allow them a touchdown. They are unranked, but that game over Kentucky at Kentucky should have some people in the SEC a little bit concerned. LSU is playing at South Carolina. Brian Kelly and the Tigers are coming from Baton Rouge, ranked 16th in the nation. Do the Gamecocks have a chance?
They do have a chance. LSU is only a 7-point favorite. South Carolina surprised me last week. Talk about being physical. Kentucky usually is a physical team, which is why Florida has a lot of problems with them. I like LSU. Their game management last week was poor, and the coach is going crazy, throwing things all over the place. You know, they have better talent. They have better athletes. I think they win the game, but not by very much.
Yeah, I mean, this to me is going to be this is a difficult game to pick, in my opinion. This is not one of those easy, people go, oh, LSU's ranked and South Carolina's not. South Carolina struggled. They haven't been that good in recent history. Listen, they're playing at home. They're riding a high. PJ, I'm going with South Carolina. I'm going with the Gamecocks to shock and win this game over LSU and put South Carolina in the top 25 for the first time this season. So we talk about, well, these teams don't play anybody. Tulsa doesn't play a tough schedule. Well, they just played Arkansas State. Guess who's playing Arkansas State this week? Michigan. Guess where they are? At home. Because why would they ever leave the state of Michigan at any point early on in the season? But we're not going to that game. We're going to the Mike Norvell Bowl. We're going to a game that I've had circled since before the season started. I know Ryan Silverfield, the head coach of Memphis. I know Mike Norvell, the former head coach of Memphis, who left Memphis for Florida State. At noon Eastern time on ESPN in Tallahassee, Mike Norvell will host his old team for the first time since he left. And PJ, I have said it, and I will say it again. With no disrespect to Mike Norvell or the Seminoles, I have them on a potential 0-3 start to their season with this game. Memphis was picked to win the American Athletic Conference. Ryan Silverfield's taken a little bit longer than Justin Fuente and Mike Norvell with the program, but Memphis getting some respect here. Memphis and their fan base know what it's like to lose their head coach, and now Ryan Silverfield and Mike Norvell, who know each other, will be on the field opposite each other in Tallahassee. Will the Tigers claw their way to a victory and send the Seminoles to an 0-3 start?
This is a Seminole team that I'm not familiar with. This is a Seminole team that has been pushed around the first 2 weeks of the season, as we know. You heard me say it all the time. Georgia Tech pushed them around. Boston College pushed them around. And I don't think they're going to be pushed around this time. I think that Mike Tortora has probably got a good plan. I know they're playing at home, and this next number disturbs me. It says tickets as low as $28.
Yeah.
When you go to Old Campbell Stadium. So the Florida State faithful are not happy with this game. They're not happy with the team, and they don't want to go see them, even for $28 a ticket. Memphis looks like they're going to be on this year, but I don't see Florida State being 0-3, Daniel. I got to go with FSU.
Well, you may not see it, PJ, but it may be there for you after this weekend. I think that Florida State is in a danger zone right now. This is probably one of the last teams that Mike Norvell wanted to see in non-conference play after an 0-2 start. PJ's going FSU, and I am going with Memphis in this matchup to go into Florida State and for Ryan Silverfield to be leaving with a grin saying that the new coach of Memphis, well, not the new coach, but the most recent coach of Memphis defeats the old coach of Memphis, and then that will lead to a lot of questions. I like both of these coaches. I respect both of these programs. And if Florida State for 1 second thinks that Memphis is a slouch, this game going to blow up real quick. PJ, Boston College is ranked 24th in the nation with Billy O'Brien as their head coach. Missouri, who had a great season last season, left for dead in the SEC a few years ago. They're ranked 6th in the country. At 12:45 p.m. Eastern Time, this game should be on national television. It's on the SEC network. I hope y'all get it. In Memorial Stadium in Columbia, Missouri, Boston College at Missouri, ACC versus SEC. You might want to just throw this game out and go, it's Boston College. What are they going to do? But I think this might be one of the best games to watch Saturday. What do you got?
Well, I think Missouri is way, way overrated. They're not a number 6 team in the nation. I don't care what anyone says. They're a good team, not a great team. Boston College, again, was very physical. We saw that with FSU. They're going to continue that. I like Boston College in this game.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. Missouri being ranked 6th. I think, again, rankings are not necessarily about one season. Sometimes they carry over. And because they had a good year last year, this might be partially a carryover. And I think BC is going to say something about this. I'm picking Boston College on the road as well. This will be a big feather in the cap if they can get it done for Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC. Next game that we have on, Miami against Ball State. A couple of years ago when Notre Dame made the college football playoff, they almost lost to Ball State at home. Can Miami beat them? Don't worry, PJ. We're not going after that game. I only have to worry about MAC teams when they're playing Notre Dame. I'm kidding. Anywho, let's go to this game. Tulane at Oklahoma. Tulane, like Tulsa, has played the Oklahoma State type teams of the world in recent history in non-conference play. The American Athletic Conference does not shy away from competition, unlike some other conferences and schools. They welcome the competition. Tulane is on the road at number 15 Oklahoma, who was a Big 12 team, now an SEC team for the first time ever. This game's on ESPN. Who do you got?
This game, I think, is going to go Oklahoma's way. I think that they're I think better athletes, and I don't see them slipping up. Some of these games are supposed to win. They need to win because when they start playing against the SEC teams, where they're supposed to lose, well, this is the game they need to win, and I think they will.
Yeah, I'm going with Oklahoma in this matchup as well. John Summerall, the new head coach of the Tulane Green Wave, has done some good things, and he definitely was hanging around last week in a very difficult game, a game that they were probably counted out for when they played Kansas State, who was ranked 17th in the country, and Kansas State was able to win late in the game by just a touchdown in the matchup here. So shout out to John Summerall in his first season as a Tulane Green Wave head coach with Willie Fritz heading out of the program after bringing it to a successful place, which was prognosticated to me by somebody. And they said, look at that guy over there. They were pointing at Willie Fritz. We were in Newport, Rhode Island at the American Athletic kickoff at the time, years ago. He said, you see that guy over there? That man wins everywhere he goes. Look in his history. Look at all the programs. He has won everywhere. And at Tulane, he did it. He won the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, a New Year's Six Bowl over Caleb Williams and USC in an instant classic that I was on site for, interviewing the guys and in the locker room. And some of those guys are in the NFL right now. Michael Pratt, Tajay Spears, guys like Patrick Jenkins will be in the NFL. A lot of great stuff with Tulane. No disrespect to the MAC, by the way, with the statement I made before. I was just stating the fact that people overlook these teams like a Notre Dame, and Ball State had a hell of a game against them a few years ago. Game that I want to go to here, PJ, Washington State at Washington. Why is this game interesting? Because Washington State is a Pac-12 team, and Washington is now a Big Ten team. So this is not a conference game anymore. but it is a rivalry game in state. What do you got for it?
Oops.
Yeah, Washington State at Washington.
Washington State at Washington.
Yep.
I think you're right. It's a rivalry game, and I'm looking at that as Washington. I think that they're still poised to be good after they've been good the last couple of years, almost won it all last year. I like Washington.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Washington as well in this matchup. I think Washington, who is currently an unranked team. Now, granted, when teams lose their coaches and their starting quarterback and or one of the two, both, typically they don't get ranked as high, right? Unless you're Michigan or Ohio State. Ohio State's quarterback was Kyle McCord. He's at Syracuse now. They're ranked high. Michigan was ranked in the top 10, lost their quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, and head coach Jim Harbaugh, but they stayed ranked high. Notre Dame lost their quarterback in Sam Hartman, but top 5 team in the nation. Washington loses Kalen DeBoer, their head coach, and their quarterback, Michael Penix Jr., and they're unranked. How the hell does that happen? Well, it happens with unfair advantages. Washington, I got them winning this game, and I'm excited to see it. PJ, here's a game that I'm really looking forward to. The battle of two Carolinian teams, App State and East Carolina. East Carolina is one of the few teams in the country. Going into week 3, 60 of the 134 teams in FBS are undefeated. East Carolina is one of those teams. In Greenville, North Carolina, Dowdy Ficklin Stadium will have App State and East Carolina. 2 unranked teams, but 2 teams that could play spoiler to somebody this year. What do you got?
This is a flip of game, Daniel. This game is very easy. 2-point favorite for App State. I like East Carolina only because they're playing at home.
Yeah, I'm going to go with ECU as well. They are a team that, again, like some others out there, has been left for dead over the years. They've had different coaches, but Mike Houston's been there for a while, and I'm looking at a victory for him. Here's another game that's in state but is not in conference. Utah, who's in the Big 12, and Utah State, who is in the Mountain West but could end up being maybe the future of the Pac-12, maybe if they get added. So Utah State, what do you got?
With Cam Rising coming back to play quarterback for Utah, we saw him a couple years ago in Florida. This guy's got a hell of an arm, and he was hurt last year, and he's coming back now. So just because of him, I like him. I like the Utah.
Yeah, Utah has played spoiler, like I've said, for the last couple of years, and typically you hear about them toward the end of the season. They might be unranked at times, but I guess they got the Big 12 assist as they've been ranked in the top 15. I'm going to go with Utah on the road. The other games that I want to get to here, PJ, any shot that the Lane train is stopped abruptly by the Wake Forest Demon Deacons on the road?
No, this game will be I would consider this a cupcake, but it's not really because I think Wake Forest plays tough, as tough as they can. But Lane Train really has things going.
Yeah, I'm going with Ole. Ole Miss winning this game as well against Wake Forest. I'm going to pick them to win the matchup. Next one that we have here, PJ, I want to get to just a couple because we got a few minutes to go and we got to get to the NFL. So the last game that I'm going to pick for us, I'm scouring here because there's a lot of teams that are off this week, and your Go Gators are off this week. Syracuse is off this week, so there's not there. Oh no, I'm sorry, the Gators are not off this week. I thought they were. They're not off this week. So that'll be our last game. Texas A&M at Florida on ABC at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Texas A&M was ranked, and they lose to Notre Dame, and they fall out of the top 25, yet Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois, and they're number 18. Make it make sense, Papa Joe. Texas A&M at Florida, what do you got?
Well, my Gator guys are all going crazy about this game. And it's all on Coach Napier. I've been a proponent of keeping Coach Napier for all this time. I think he's doing a good job with what he was left with. He's recruited well, certainly getting the number one quarterback in the country to come to Florida. This is a game where, like Norvell, and Florida State is Napier has to win this game, or he's going to be terminated. Now, whether they terminate him at the end of the year or mid-year, which I'm not a proponent of that at all. You know me that. I don't like that. He has to win this game. Now, half of the Gators faithful want Graham Mertz to start the game and get things rolling, and half the Gator faithful want to see the hotshot new quarterback DJ Lagway come in and play. This is all over the news, all over the country. Everywhere you pick up something is DJ Lagway going to play in this game? Well, the answer is yes. Will he start? No. Napier is being stubborn as hell, and he's saying, look, Mertz is okay. He was a concussion protocol. I want him to start. He's my senior guy. He knows everything. He doesn't have the athletic ability that Lagway does, that's for sure. But he's going to start the game. Now, you're going to see Lagway. I just don't know if it's going to be early or late. If Texas A&M starts putting a run on them and they're up maybe 10, 14 points, Graham Mertz will never play another down for Florida this year. Lagway will come in and take it over. This game is so important to us. I can't emphasize how important it is. This is one of the games that he has to win. So in saying that, I'm going to say he is going to win. Now, whether I agree with how he's going to do it, no, I don't. Because I want to see Lagway play, I want to see him start, and I want to see him throw the ball. Which kid? Daniel, you see this kid throw the ball, you're going to be amazed. He really is something special. Now, let's face it. It was an amateur team last year with Sanford, and they didn't pressure him that much at all. He's so big and strong that he could run the ball. So I'm just sort of blathering here. I don't mean to blather, but I really like Lagway, and I like Florida in this game, mainly because I'm just a graduate. So I just got to say, go Gators.
Yeah, PJ, I think they definitely need this victory. I think it's very important, but I don't think they're going to get it. I think Texas A&M is going to come in there, and I think they're going to get a victory over them. I'm excited to see DJ Lagway, and I'm excited for what he can do. But I think Texas A&M bounces back. I mean, they got a win last week. They lost in their first week of the season to Notre Dame, who came into town to Texas and defeated them. But I see Texas A&M getting back into the top 25, maybe sooner than later. Maybe not this week, maybe a week after this week, but I think Texas A&M is going to squeak it out. I do hope it's a good game. I do hope Lagway has a good game, but I'm going to give a slight edge to Texas A&M as I think they're in a better position than Florida currently is right now. We're going to jump really quick here to the NFL side of things and let you know where PJ and I have stacked up. So last week, PJ picked Baltimore, and Baltimore lost. I picked Kansas City. I got that correct. We both picked Philadelphia in a shootout in Brazil, and we got that right. We picked Atlanta, and we got Hotlanta wrong. We were right about Buffalo. PJ was right about Chicago, as ugly as that looked for Caleb Williams. I had Tennessee, so I got that wrong. Cincinnati had an abysmal game in Gerard Mayo's debut as the head coach of the Patriots. Congrats to his win. Houston, I said that game would maybe be the best game of the week, a close game, and it was. C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson head-to-head, 29-27. Houston wins the game. Jacksonville loses on a last-second field goal, so we got that wrong. New Orleans blew out Carolina 47-10 in New Orleans. The Giants look like they are a worse team than they were maybe a few years ago. I picked Minnesota. PJ picked the Giants. We both had the Chargers right as they win in the debut of Jim Harbaugh, the re-debut of Jim Harbaugh. Denver's Bo Nix didn't look that bad. He had a rushing touchdown, but they lose their game to Seattle. Dallas wins their game in a blowout of Cleveland that can't seem to move the ball. Tampa Bay won in their matchup, even though Jaden Daniels had a pretty good day. By the way, number one overall pick, Caleb Williams, his entire offense, if you add every passing yard and every rushing yard, the offense of Chicago under Caleb Williams was outperformed by Jaden Daniels' arm in Jaden's debut in the NFL. Jaden had more passing yards than Chicago had total yards in week one of the debut of the number 2 pick, Jaden Daniels, and the number 1 pick, Caleb Williams. Jaden also had 88 yards on the ground. Not a bad debut. Detroit won the first overtime game in Matt Stafford and Jared Goff going up against each other. The quarterbacks were traded for each other a few years ago, seem to have great respect for each other, and this game going overtime made Sunday night all the more special. And Aaron Rodgers made it through a game in San Francisco, but the Jets did not win. PJ ends this week 10-6 to start off the NFL for 2024-25. I end it 11-5 here as we start things off. So, PJ, let's jump right into the NFL tonight. We're going to see Buffalo at Miami. Miami's got some injuries in their backfield. Buffalo is trying to figure out who their number one receiver is. Buffalo at Miami, what do you got?
Well, you can't sell Buffalo short with Josh. He looked like he was beat after the second quarter last week, and he just flurried. He wills guys to win. He is so special and so big and strong that I don't know how anyone can guard him. Miami proved that our team isn't as good as we thought. Although our team fumbled on the 1 yard line, and we would have had a big lead instead of coming from behind. That game wasn't as detrimental as I wanted to be. I thought we played a good game, but that fumble turned the whole game around. So giving Miami a win, I don't like that. I like Buffalo because of that.
Yeah, I think Buffalo is going to go into Miami. These are two teams that in the division of the AFC East play each other well, and splitting. I mean, in the AFC East in general, whoever's at the bottom, whoever's at the top, it seems like you can split. Like the worst team will get a win. Buffalo, when they weren't that good, would find a way to beat the Patriots 1 out of 2 times. Miami would beat them. The Jets, when they weren't good, they'd find a way to beat the Patriots. So I think Buffalo on the road here gets it done. Miami has some injuries hampering them. And Thursday Night Football, I just think Buffalo is going to be able to squeak it out here. And maybe a close game, maybe a low-scoring game. Might be a 17-14 game or a 16-14 game, but I'm taking Buffalo. New Orleans at Dallas. What do you got?
New Orleans looked like Green Bay last week. My God, they scored a lot of points up and down the field. Dallas is very happy they finally got their quarterback signed. I don't like Dallas at all. However, I got to pick them in this game.
Yeah, it's funny. These are two teams that blew out their opponent in week 1, and now they get to play each other immediately in week 2. I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. They're at home, and I think Dallas and their defense is going to do enough against New Orleans. This will show us how good New Orleans' defense is because we know their offense can move the ball. Tampa Bay at Detroit, a rematch of the playoffs last year. What do you have, PJ?
This is going to be a great game. Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield is really coming on strong again this year. People doubted him 5 years ago, but now look what he's doing. You got the best receiver in the NFL, Mike Williams. I think he's the best receiver in football. But then you got Jared Goff on the other side with his multifaceted offense, can score anywhere on the field. And this is probably a pick-em game, but Detroit is a 7-point favorite. I'm going to take Detroit.
Yeah, I'm going with the Detroit Lions as well. I think Detroit, listen, if any team plays like the personality of their coach, it's the Detroit Lions. And I think Detroit is going to find a way to win, just like they found a way to win last year after Tampa beat Philadelphia and went into Detroit in the postseason. Detroit defeated Tampa at home in Detroit. I think they'll do it in Motor City again. Indianapolis at Green Bay. Anthony Richardson, in my opinion, is going to have a career day on the road in Green Bay. I think that he'll be able to get a lot of fantasy football points, and Green Bay has Jordan Love injured. It looks like Malik Willis is running the offense, and I think that this is going to potentially be a landslide for the Colts. What do you think?
I agree wholeheartedly. Anthony Richardson is a stud. Finally, he got to play last week, and he looked like a stud. Going up against C.J. Stroud and all his boys over there. They could have won that game, but they didn't, and Green Bay, certainly, their quarterback is hurt, so I look for Indianapolis to really roll here.
And, PJ, I think you forgot to say go.
Go Gators, I did.
There it is. So, no worries there. Anthony Richardson, a go Gators. So, we're both going with Indianapolis in this matchup. Next game that we have up here, the New York Jets at the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee blew an opportunity to win over Chicago, whose offense wasn't moving when they were on the road last week. Now Tennessee's at home, and Will Levis is hosting Aaron Rodgers. Thoughts?
Well, Will Levis, I liked him last year. I thought he's made a lot of progress, and this year I'm not quite so sure he played as well as he could have in the first game. Aaron Rodgers, he did his best what he had last week, and he came up short against probably one of the best teams in football. But this game, it's a 3-point game, and I'm going to lean toward Tennessee because it's at home.
PJ going with Tennessee. I'm going with Aaron. I spoke with offensive coordinator Nate Hackett, who's been a good friend of over a decade, and he said they needed to get a game under their belts, and I think you're going to see a better Aaron Rodgers here in this game. I'm picking the New York Jets on the road over Tennessee. San Francisco at Lake Minnetonka. San Francisco showed that they still look like they are in late season form here in the early season, and the Minnesota Vikings don't seem too bad with Sam Darnold. What do you got?
This is Sam Darnold surprised everyone last week. Brock Purdy didn't. This kid still amazes me how cool and calm and collected he is. He doesn't get rattled, and I don't. He must have a sense like Brett Favre does. He hangs in there, and completes passes. He's an extraordinary athlete. I hope CMC plays this week. Don't know, but they definitely need him. But they have enough to win this week, San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm going to go with San Francisco as well. Jordan Wilson having numbers in one game that almost eclipsed what he did all last season, as well as what he did in the season before. So a shout out to Jordan Mason, not Jordan Wilson. Shout out to Jordan Mason and the work that he put forward at running back. I'm going to go with San Fran to win this game on the road. A team that people don't talk about enough because Kansas City's winning the Super Bowls, but in recent history, who are they facing? More often than not, San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan. So I think San Fran gets a win, and I think San Fran is a favorite early on here to be on the NFC side of the Super Bowl. Seattle at New England. New England got a win in Gerard Mayo's coaching debut, and Seattle on the other side of it, we don't have their head coach anymore there. There's no more Pete Carroll on the side of the Seahawks. Their head coach now on the other side, they got a victory, Mike McDonald. So you got Mike McDonald, and Michael McDonald used to make a lot of songs back in the day. So Yamo be there, PJ. Is Seattle going to be there in the winner's circle, or is it going to be Gerard Mayo?
I think New England was very lucky last week. This is an even game. This is a 1-point game. I like Seattle.
Yeah, this one, listen, New England's at home, so that's the thing that concerns me here. So I think Seattle's definitely got the talent, but I think New England being at home, I'm going to give New England the slight edge if it's going to be a close game that's within a few points. Next one, we got Giants at the Commanders. The Giants look like they have no idea what they're doing, and Jaden Daniels didn't look too bad in his debut. What do you got?
Well, Jaden Daniels is going to be another one of these big, tall quarterbacks that's going to run, which I don't like, although he did look good. The Jets are pitiful. The Giants are pitiful. I don't know what they're going to do with Daniel Jones, but I don't think that he's going to be their quarterback moving forward, because if they don't win this game, he and the coach may be out. But anyway, Washington's at home, and I like them because Daniels probably is a better quarterback than Jones is right now.
Yeah, Daniel's better than Daniel. I'm going with the Washington Commanders as well. And my prediction going into the season is that former Syracuse quarterback Tommy DeVito, who's on the roster with the Giants, would start at least one game this season. If Daniel Jones continues, it may be more than one game. I'm going with the Washington Commanders, my best to all quarterbacks and to anybody out there, because as much as we are giving analysis, I never want to see somebody lose their job. The Chargers at the Panthers. The Panthers looked like they were playing week 19 of last year. Their 18 weeks last year, atrocious. It looked like they just went right back into last season and continued on. They had a terrible day in New Orleans. Will they have a terrible day at home against the Chargers?
This is going to be a romp for Los Angeles. Carolina absolutely looked terrible. They had no idea where their ball was going. The quarterback who was big Alabama quarterback a couple years ago can't seem to do anything right. They just really should win this game by a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chargers as well in this matchup. Carolina has traded, they've gotten rid of quarterbacks and coaches like underwear, and they might have to change their clothes again. I don't know what their laundry bill is, but it must be high. I'm going with the Chargers to win this matchup. Next one, Cleveland at Jacksonville. The Browns got a lot of talent, can't seem to figure out how to score. The Jacksonville Jaguars couldn't seem to figure out how to play defense at the end of the game last week. Who do you got?
Well, I was sadly disappointed with Jacksonville last week. It was a gut-wrenching loss. The fumble at the 1 yard line that I described turned the game around. They had no business losing that game. If at the end scores on that carry, the game frankly would have been over. I don't know what to say. Even though I think Watson is not the answer. They need to get their lawyers to get together and see if they can buy this guy's contract out, because he's not the answer of Cleveland either. What I don't like to see is the tickets are only $34 in Jacksonville. If they're playing a named team, the tickets are $100. So our fans are not happy, but I'm happy. I want Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think that Deshaun Watson has more charges against him than touchdowns as a Brown. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars in this game as well. I mean, this dude, my goodness, Deshaun Watson. I'm going with Jacksonville in their first home game of the season. Next one we got up, the Rams at the Cardinals, or pardon me, the Raiders. The Raiders at the Baltimore Ravens, PJ. Do the and obviously every time I do that is an ode to the boomer himself, Chris Berman. Do the Raiders have a shot against the Ravens?
Lamar was pissed last week, let me tell you. He was pissed that they lost that game. They should have won it. But when you play one of the best teams in the conference, you gotta do everything right on all three phases of football. They didn't do that. However, Las Vegas is a weak opponent this year for them. I think that Baltimore wins this game. Baltimore's is up by 9 on the full line here, so it looks like Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens. I told you last week the game was going to be close, and if it was a close game down the stretch, that Kansas City was going to win that game, and it came down to literally a toenail of Isaiah Likely, who is a tremendous, tremendous tight end. I'm going with Baltimore in this one. Next game that we have up, the Los Angeles Rams at the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals got a ton of talent. They can't seem to figure it out. The Rams lost Puka Nacua, at least for a few weeks. God willing, he'll be okay. Besides Cooper Kupp, the wide receiving core is a giant question mark with the Rams. Does Arizona win at home, or do the Rams find a way without Puka?
No, the Arizona doesn't win. Los Angeles has got too much talent. This is a pick'em game, actually. This is a one-point game. And what I don't like to see also is Arizona. The tickets are as low as $18, so they're not really fired up about their team either. They should, because they got a chance to win this game. Kyler Murray did his best last week. He's just for me, it's just too small playing a game. I don't like to see him jitterbug around like that. I like Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm going with the Rams in this one. Even without Puka Nacua, I just can't seem to trust Arizona to get the game done. They got a lot of talent in fantasy football, but for some reason in reality, they can't seem to figure it out. Pittsburgh at Denver. I told y'all that it was smoke and mirrors and Justin Fields was going to be the quarterback. Well, Russell Wilson was injured, Dan. Come on now. Justin Fields was going to be the quarterback of the Steelers between the two of them, no matter what happened this season. That was my prediction, and I'm sticking to it. Bo Nix is hosting Justin Fields. Who wins?
Frankly, this is going to be a terrible game. I don't like Justin Fields as the quarterback. I do like Bo Nix though as Denver. I think he's going to be guided by Sean Payton. I think he's going to get better as the year goes on. They're in Denver. It's only a 2.5-point game. I like Denver.
Yeah, I'm going with Denver too. People underestimate. They didn't really talk a lot about Bo Nix and his debut, and I don't know why. I know that they lost, but I don't think Bo had a bad day, and I think Bo knows what Bo can do, and I got Bo getting the dub, and I said my prediction, Jaden Daniels would have the best season of 2024 rookie quarterbacks, and the guy I picked behind him, Bo Nix. And that, to me, was a sleeper pick, but y'all can stay asleep on him. I'll stay awake on Bo Nix. Cincinnati at Kansas City, PJ. Does Joe Burrow, speaking of being asleep, does he wake the heck up? What is Cincinnati doing? Kansas City, is this an easy game for them, or is this actually going to be a challenge?
No, this is the game of the week here, Daniel. This is the game of the week. Joe Burrow will show up. They'll guarantee you that on that. Kansas City is a 5.5-point favorite. I think it's probably going to be less than that, but this will be a game to see. This again. I like to see two young quarterbacks that just move around in the pocket and throw the ball, and they both do that. Kansas City looks like they have the better team. I think that Hollywood Henderson's coming back this week, so Kansas City's wide receiver core is scary already, and it's going to look scarier. It's going to look good to Patrick, though. I like Kansas City.
Yeah, I like Kansas City as well. Xavier Worthy scoring in his debut for the Kansas City Chiefs. Not surprised, the fastest man to ever run a 40 in the combine. And I have his autographed card that I pulled from a box I bought at GG Cards and Breaks. Go there today in Syracuse, 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse. I'm going Kansas City. Sunday Night Football. Why did they do this to us? Chicago at Houston. I'm saying Houston 48-10. What do you got, PJ?
It'll probably be worse than that. Chicago won't have a shot in this game. This is Houston, and you're going to see how far. I probably C.J. Stroud is probably only going to play half a game this week.
And I'll tell you this. In this case, unlike the movie, Chicago, you have the problem, and that problem is Houston. I'm going with the Houston Texans to win this matchup in the game, which brings me to Monday Night Football. It's the battle for the nest, PJ. The Birds are trying to figure it out. The Falcons at the Eagles. Who is staying at the top of this game? At the end of the game after 4 quarters, who is perched on the tree and who has been kicked out of the nest? Who do you got?
Kirk Cousins did not have a good game last week. And it's a shame because he's a future Hall of Famer. He's a marvelous quarterback. But he's going into the real lion's den right here. Philadelphia at home is a killer. Jalen is going to have his game. Jalen Hurts is going to have a big game. And because they're at home, I think they win it.
Yeah, I got Philadelphia with the slight edge being at home. They had a shootout up against Green Bay, which would have been great to see Jordan Love finish it with a couple plays there, but that didn't happen because he got hurt. God willing, he'll be okay. I'm going with the Eagles as well. PJ, as always, it is my pleasure, my honor, and my privilege to have you be my better half. I appreciate you, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
A lot of fun. See you later.
Take care. That coming from Papa Joe. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. We'll be back on Wake Up Call right after this. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the Whole Frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily, We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, the one-stop sports card and trading card shop, 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. Go out and see them today for all of your sports card and trading card needs. Sports cards of all different sports, basketball, baseball, football, and more, as well as Yu-Gi-Oh!, Disney Lorcana, Pokemon, and Magic the Gathering, singles, packs, boxes, graded cards, and the only place I know that has every MLB, NFL, and NBA team. GG Cards and Breaks is the difference, and go out and see them today, Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 6, Sunday, 10 to 5, at 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. With that being said, big time thanks to Papa Joe, and for you for tuning in all over the world, youtube.com, facebook.com, both / Wake Up Call DT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Much love to Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, to get us there. And of course, many thanks to Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, K9 Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, K9 Campground Dog Boarding, Avicoli's, GG Cards and Breaks, Brian's Landing, Ma and Pa's, Pizza Man, Great Lakes Honda City, Mother's Cupboard, Servomation, and of course we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins, Brian and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse, and the Binghamton University Bobcats. Shout Bearcats. My goodness. Here we go. Talking over myself. Lemoyne, Brian and Stratton, and Binghamton University. Shout out. I was thinking of the Bobcats. Shout out to Brian and Stratton, who won their men's soccer 2024-25 season opener on the road against Genesee Community College yesterday, starting off their season with a victory. You can go back and see my special with them on the pitch by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Find the Dolphins and the Bobcats and the Bearcats on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Lemoyne playlist, our BSC Syracuse playlist, where that special is with the men's soccer team, and find our Bearcats playlist as well. You can find all these schools on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com. syracuse.bscbobcats.com, and bubearcats.com. With that being said, I hope you have a fantastic day. Stay safe, stay well. To everybody in the hurricane way or any of the weather way, please be safe. Listen and do the best that you can. I pray that God watches over you, clears up every storm, makes blue skies everywhere, and gives us peace, tranquility, and just a great move forward. May love truly be at the center of everything, and may all evil never prosper by the grace of God. May God prevail. God will prevail. May love prevail. May goodness prevail. May positivity prevail. And may every battle we're fighting personally and overall, may it all work out for the grace of God. May God heal everything. Thank you to Papa Joe. Thank you to you. Have a great day. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. God bless. No stress. Do your best. Have a wonderful day. And enjoy some football tonight, NFL and college.